Hello, and welcome to the Lightworker Diaries, a space for reflection, truth-telling, and soulful remembering. My name is Tiffany, and I am a truth teller, a mystic, and a mirror. These are transmissions from my heart to yours, an archive of channeled wisdom, lived stories, and the real work of becoming. May something in here stir something in you. Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Lightworker Diaries. Before we jump into today's episode, I just want to remind you that we are in the midst of the Lionsgate portal, and I have a very special gift just for you called the Lionsgate Portal Transmissions, where I am tapping into the energetics of this portal each day and sharing a channeled message from the spirit guides who are here to support the anchoring of these activations, initiations, healings, and clearings, the things that you and I are both going to use to timeline jump from where we are to where we want to be. And these are being offered to you for free or by donation for $8. So if this is something that you are interested in, you want to make the most of this Lionsgate portal, go ahead and drop into the show notes, click the link, and join us today. So now let's get into the episode. Today, I want to talk to you about the fine line difference between devotion and dependence on our spiritual practices, and in particular, how that impacts our ability to manifest. I know this one's going to be a juicy one, and I have been running an experiment for the last several weeks that I now have information I can share with you that is tangible, real evidence that I didn't have before. So let's start there. Several years ago, I was doing I don't even remember, I think it was like a 30-day challenge with one of the manifestation teachers that I truly adore. And she creates audios that help to reprogram the subconscious mind, do activations, different things. And this was a manifestation for money program. And I was in it. I was listening to the audios twice a day as prescribed every single day. And at the end of that 30-day period, I noticed that I had a huge upswing in money received. And I was like, that's amazing. And so I moved on, because we do, on to the next thing. And the next month, my money went back to what it was before. So I keep track of my incoming and my outflow I'm an accountant, or I used to be. I keep track of my cash inflows and my outflows, and I have since 2020 because I find that information fascinating. So when I looked at the month that I was doing the audios versus the month after when I had stopped doing the audios, I noticed that I had a huge increase in income. Then I stopped doing the practices and I had a decrease in income. And I went, do I really have to do these every day, twice a day? Like, is that the only way I can hold on to this vibration? And I made a decision. If that's what it took, that's what I would do. And so for the last few years, I have done a audio meditation as soon as I wake up in the morning and right before I go bed at night, daily, twice a day, every day for the last several years. And what started as a curiosity when I was doing the program became what I called a devotion, right? I was devoted to doing the practices that would anchor me into the way of being that I wanted to be, but secretly became dependence. And I shifted the audios that I was doing because I was like, I'm changing what I'm manifesting. And so, I'd have different audios and I would work through different things. And I actually had a energy healing library that I had access to. And I was doing the energy work audios twice a day for a while. And it was really interesting because this year I have really dialed in who my future self is. And I've shared this in the Quantum Leap episode as well, but there has been a period of time where I have forgotten to check in with my future self or even with my heart to figure out what is the path of least resistance to embodying that version of me. And instead, I've taken this very logic-based approach. And I would say these practices that I've been using have followed that logical strategy. I saw the data from that one time that I did the audios, that money increased. And when I stopped, money decreased. And my brain said, if I do these audios, money goes up. I want more money, so I must do these audios. The simplicity, I know. There's so much more, multitudes of things that could have been happening in the field at that point in time. But my mind said it must be these audios, which means I must need to do them for the rest of my life. I'm so glad I know so much more now than I did then. And I love my little self for what she did because now I get to share this with you. So as I was tuning in this year, particularly around May, June timeframe, I realized how much I was using my logic to create perceived safety in my field. And I really began to notice the things that I was doing that weren't aligned with what my future self was doing. I started asking myself the question, what does my future self know that I don't know? What is my future self doing that I'm not yet doing? What is my future self no longer doing that I'm still doing? And that one gave me some information that I'm going to share with you right now. She was not doing this twice a day, every day meditation practice. And I remember thinking, but how? How do you not do that and hold the frequency? And it was really interesting because her response was so clear. I've already embodied it. And that changed everything for me. I knew that my future self does not think about money every single day because she already has enough and more on the way. And so she doesn't have to take money manifestation courses. She doesn't have to do money subconscious reprogramming audios. She doesn't have to do money meditations or energy clearings. What she does is study the ways that money makes money. She studies the art of the offer. She studies the art of marketing. She studies the art of selling because she already knows she's a frequency match for money. The only thing that she has that I don't quite yet have or didn't quite yet have when I started to tap into this was some of the skill components. My frequency, my energy was there. The only thing that was different between me and her is she believed that money was no longer a problem. I believed I still had more to do in order to receive what I wanted. And as I sat with her and really got curious about the difference of how she spends her day, she revealed to me just how dependent I had become on certain spiritual practices and how they were actually working against me because they were holding me in this field of that hasn't happened yet, so it's outside of me. It's in front of me. It's not in me. And of course, the universe, being the benevolent universe it is, helped me through this transition. I had been signed up for this energy work membership that gave me this access of this library of different energy healing that are so powerful, so profound. I recommend them to anybody who asks me. I had been doing those energy healings twice a day, every day for probably 18 months, actually. And there was a higher tier available in which the person who was running the program was doing a group energy healing session once a month. And I knew every previous time I have been in a group setting with this individual, I have not only felt the shift in my body, I have seen the shift in my reality within days. So as an example, I think it was 2025, January 2025, she did a 30-day channel transmission with the goddess Isis and a few others. There was one particular activation that she did, and I think it was 10 days after I did that activation, I went and bought my dream Jeep that I had been waiting 6 years to buy. She removed the block, or being in her field let me remove the block that said, I can't have it yet. And I went out, not only did I find my dream Jeep, I got it on a deal, and it makes me so incredibly happy. So I know what she does works for me. And when I heard there was this opportunity to upgrade, I was like, yeah, I want that, because I've had tons of evidence of all the times in which being in a container with her has changed me. And so I signed up and I joined the group transmissions, the group healings. And it was interesting. The first one, I was all in. It felt great. The second one, I noticed a little bit of antsiness. Like, I usually lay down to receive. And about halfway through, I was like, I just want to do something else. So I think I sat and cleared my email instead of receiving. And by the third one, I couldn't even lay down to receive. I didn't want to be there. And I was like, this is so strange. The next month, she shared that doing those group healings was no longer aligned for this upper tier membership. She was taking them out. She was going to put something else in its place. And what she was putting in its place, I didn't feel aligned with. I didn't need that. That wasn't of interest to me. And so I reached out to her team and I said, how do I downgrade my subscription? How do I go back to just the library like I had before? And they said, well, we canceled the upgraded membership. You just have to sign up for the other one. Here's the link. You're good to go. And something in my intuition said, don't sign up yet. And it was so interesting because I didn't realize how much I had become reliant on those energy healings in the mornings and in the evenings until I didn't have them available. And I was like, ooh, I think I'm a little bit addicted to them. I can't believe I just said that word in relation to this, but that's exactly what it was. I was addicted, obsessed, dependent on these things as my morning and evening practice. And the moment that I took them away, I watched my mind reel through all of the things that it said was going to happen because I didn't have those things in place. And it was like, girl, you're going to crash and burn. You're going to go bankrupt. Everything that you just built up is going to disappear. And I was like, oh, this is the voice that had been quietly running my decision to do that practice. It was not being done out of devotion. It was being done out of fear. And it wasn't until I stopped doing it that I realized that was the case. I had created a safety blanket that I was using to snuggle up in because I was afraid if I stopped, my world would crumble. And I want to tell you what happened next, because it was the scariest thing to not just sign up for something else, but to continue to just trust myself. I had been externally sourcing this idea that someone else had to clear my energy, to ground my energy, to activate my energy body, to initiate me through these portals of transformation, instead of following my heart. And so I listened to my heart. I didn't sign up. The app is still on the home screen of my phone in the spot that's so easy to just click on, but I don't have the membership, so I can't get to anything. And I have never been so proud of myself for saying no to something that's supposed to be so good for you. The thing that people tell you is, the thing to do. It's easy to quit the addictions that are bad for you. I stopped drinking. Great job. I stopped smoking. Thank goodness. I stopped meditating. No one claps for that one. No one. But if you have a practice that you are dependent upon, you don't think you can walk straight without it, you're outsourcing your power to something that looks nice, that sounds nice, that people don't look at you and say, that's a problem. So let's back up a little bit. This is something that helped me to wrap my head around this experiment, this unwinding. I started to think back to when I was working with the fractional accounting firm. I was with them for 4 years. And while I was with them, I had the perceived safety of knowing that I was getting paid every other week. And I knew how much I was getting paid. And so over those 4 years, I never really thought about money. I just knew it was always coming. And so all of the courses and programs and things that I did during those 4 years were for fun. I took writing classes. I did writing challenges. There were definitely some things that I learned that were skill development for work. Like I took a customer success training and certification program. I took sales training, but none of it was ever from a place of lack. It was always from a place of curiosity. And when I left corporate, I didn't even know it was happening because it was so deeply ingrained in my psyche. But I went from this complete sense of perceived safety, money always coming in, to, oh crap, I need to figure out how to replace my income and do it as quickly as possible. And instead of trusting myself, I dove headfirst into logic and ego and the scramble of purchasing things that I thought would solve my problem. There was no way I was going to cut the meditation principles or the spiritual practices or walk away from the coaches and the mentoring and the masterminds and the heal. Like, I thought I needed all of those external things to steady myself as I made this transition from one source of revenue to a different source of revenue. And I wouldn't change any of that for the world because I can see it so much clearer now that I'm on the other side of it. But what I know now to be true is my future self, she has a relationship with money that's very similar to my corporate relationship with money, with some slight modifications. She also doesn't think a lot about money because she already has more than enough. She also doesn't stress about when or how much or if it's coming in because she already knows it is. And so she doesn't have to do money manifestation programs. She doesn't have to do money subconscious reprogramming. She doesn't have to do money beliefs work. She's not sitting down and asking, what did she learn from her mom? And what did she learn from her dad? And where are her limitations? Because she's set. The things that she learns about money is, how does my money make money? How do I, have a strategy for money so my money has work that it's doing for me? Do I have all the systems in place so my money knows where it gets to hang out and have a good time? She doesn't worry if it's coming because she already has it and she already knows there's more on the way. So you might be thinking, okay, great. You're right. Maybe I have something that I'm a little bit obsessed with too. But how do you let go of that? How do you navigate that shift from this is something I'm doing every day because I can't think of any other way to do it to not doing that every single day? And I'm going to tell you the one thing that will make this all better is starting to cultivate inner trust. It is starting to cultivate this belief in yourself that you have it figured out, that it's already working, that everything is working in your favor. You always see the opportunities. The cash is always flowing in your direction. Everything is working. as I let go of my meditation practice, as I let go of some of the affirmation practices I was doing, I narrowed it down to one simple mantra. So anytime my mind gets all spun in a circle and it is like, we should probably do this so that we can get that, I say this very simple mantra, and you are welcome to borrow it for as long as it makes you happy. And that mantra is this: every day, in every way, my life is getting better and better. That is the only thing that I find myself repeating before I go to sleep. I say it maybe 4 or 5 times. That's my new practice. Reminding my mind, who still sometimes thinks, but are you sure we've done enough? Yep. Because in every day, in every way, my life is getting better and better. It's already happening. There's nothing more that I need to do. The world is already working in my favor. As I've made this shift, there was definitely a time in which I wobbled and almost crashed and burned because I wasn't sure if I had enough inner trust to make it through, because I had been so tightly connected to these things outside of me for trust. And when you take those away, when you have nothing to grab for, if you have nothing to cling on to, you get an internal balance check. You start to ask yourself and really feel, do I believe every day in every way my life gets better and better? Do I believe it's working? It's happening? Can I hold that faith until my reality comes to catch up with it? And I will tell you, June was hard. I said no to a lot of things. July was also hard. I continued saying no to a lot of things. And then my intuition said, we're going to walk away from something you've been building for 6 months and start fresh and new. And everything in me and everything, even my coach was like, that's not advised. You just built up all this momentum. You're going to have to start over. And yes, that was in fact true. I walked away from an Instagram account that I had been building for 6 months because it wasn't growing. The data was clear. And when I checked in with my intuition said, the old energy in that feed is dragging it down. You have to clear the slate. And every time I tuned in, all I saw was the Lightworker Diaries. And I kept thinking to myself, but don't I need to have my name as my personal brand? And the answer was no. And I was like, but are you sure? Right? Logic fact checking out there, as if it has a clue. And my heart was like, no. Every single platform that the Lightworker Diaries is on is growing like wildflowers. Instagram is growing. Threads is like popping off. I freaking love it so much. Even my Substack, which I have been on Substack since 2023, I've had 2 bursts of growth in that time, not just like continual linear growth. I had like a bump up when I first started. And then back in like 2024, I had a huge bump in subscribers. And then it's just been steady state since then. Even my Substack is growing. My podcast, I love the fact that my podcast is growing as much as it is. And all of this was because I decided to just have fun. I decided to trust myself. I decided to trust the future version of me who is a creator. I'm building assets that are going to pay off more than any salary ever could, and for longer. When I tune into these products, these assets, these things that I'm creating, it's like a dragon with a tail that wraps all the way around the earth. That is what my future self was talking about. She's like, I never have to worry. I create one thing, and the ripple of transformation that it provides gives value back to me for years. I couldn't see that when I was gripping so tight to my practices and freaking out over how to make money to replace the income stream that I had lost when I walked away from corporate. But I see it now. I see it so clearly now. So as we are in this Lionsgate portal, as we are still shedding some of the things that no longer belong, I invite you to look at your reality. What are the things that you are doing because you're afraid to stop doing them? What are the things that you're doing because there is this fear, if you don't do them, something will collapse? What are you clinging to for the safety you think it's providing? And what are you holding on to because you don't know how to let go? This is the work, my friends. This is what we're here to do. The moment that we let go, the moment that we release our grip, it gets scarier before it gets better, because we feel like we're in this free fall where we're not sure what's going to come in its place. But this is why we have trust and faith. And those two things together are what carry you through long enough that your reality can start to show you what's possible. Be so devoted to your future self, to the vision that you can't let go of, that you're okay with letting go of the small things that you think have been keeping you safe until now. Friendly reminder, the Lionsgate Portal transmissions are available. Clicking the link in the show notes. Would love to have you in there, support you through this transformation, help you anchor into that future version of you who is the wisest and most supportive in helping you become the version of you that you've been dreaming of. Would love to have you join me in that container. And if that's not for you, that's totally okay. Look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you for listening to the Lightworker Diaries. If something stirred in you today, take a breath and let it land. To go deeper, you can subscribe to the written diaries on Substack. You'll find a link in the show notes. Until next time, be true to you.